What is up, everyone? It is me with ADHD. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am joined by another YouTuber. Her name is Molly. Her channel is Me, Myself, and ADHD. Everybody say hi.
Hi guys.
All right, so Molly, why don't you tell us a little bit about your channel?
Right, so my channel focuses on my own personal experiences with ADHD, and I basically try to talk about the things that most doctors kind of wouldn't tell you what happens with ADHD, some of the more embarrassing kind of things, and just kind of some of the things that females go through, and masking.
In a way, our channels are kind of similar, right? Because you are doing what I do, where you talk about the more real versions of ADHD, the more grounded and emotional side of ADHD, which I feel like when I first started my channel, just before I started it, there was nothing like that on YouTube. There was one or two people, I think, that there was Jessica with How to ADHD and stuff like that. But even her channel is a little bit more on the clinical educational side, so it doesn't deal with as much emotion. So I think it's cool that you're doing that, and it's good that you have the female perspective of it to my male perspective of it. It's pretty cool.
It's cool because we can you can look at both the sides. Whereas if you go to the doctors, they kind of just they speak about, like you say, the clinical side, and they don't really touch on the subjects that you kind of want to know about, and it's really hard.
Right. Yeah, because if you talk to somebody who has ADHD, they don't want to sit there and listen to the most boring explanation of exactly why their brain has ADHD and because this and that and the other. They want to know, do you feel the same as I do? And, do you experience that? You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Because you feel like an alien, don't you? You just feel like, am I the only one feeling this stupid thing? And then when you hear someone say, oh my God, I feel that, you're like, wow. You feel like you've found your own species. It's amazing.
You're doing online classes and stuff right now, right? To learn about more of it?
So I'm doing an online university course. It's for child psychology and learning play. So how children, how educational games can help the motor and the speech of a non-verbal child kind of communicate.
So I was going to ask you about how quarantine life was going, but you were telling me about how it is in the UK, and that is fascinating to me how it's so much different over there. So you were going shopping today, right? And how is that split up again?
So in England at the moment, what's happening is there is a priority time for the NHS and the elderly. So they go, so it's like a staggered time. So the NHS and the key workers are priority. So we have to, non-vulnerable people like my age, 22, you kind of get pushed to the back of the line, and you don't really get to go in the shops until later in the evening because, NHS are the morning, and the elderly are in the morning, early afternoon, and the older, younger people are pushed to the edge. So you kind of just got to go and you get the last stuff on the shelf and you're like, I don't like broccoli. Ooh. You just got to make do with all the rubbish stuff.
So other than that then, what have you been doing to keep yourself entertained during quarantine?
So, I've got a puppy, Woody, so I've been taking him for walks, teaching him how to walk off the lead and all that rubbish. He is not listening at all. So that's not going great, but drawing and just editing, that sort of stuff is what I've been doing really.
Oh, okay. You do a lot of drawing?
Yeah, it's more digital art. I can't draw freehand with a pencil. Absolutely no, I can't do that. But digitally, when you've got the stencils, I'm great.
Oh, okay.
I can do all that sort of stuff. Graphics.
Wow, that's fascinating. Have you ever thought about going into graphics design?
Well, I've got an A level in graphics and photography, so that was my kind of career aspect. But I kind of lost interest halfway through, and I was like, nah, I don't want that as a career. But alongside my business plan that I have, graphic design is kind of with my hoodie prints that I've got, will be the awareness that I want to kind of push on people.
Oh, I see. Maybe we should talk about how I can do my merch then.
Yeah, no, I'll do I'll help you design it if you need any help.
Perfect. So, yeah, that kind of that kind of brings me to like what I want it to be as this overall subject, which is like hobbies for ADHD, right? So, I mean, you've had how long have you been interested in? So, like, let's just say the drawing side of things. Like, how long have you been interested in that in your life?
About 2 years, to be honest. It's not been very long. It's ever since I kind of went to the doctors and got the overall diagnosis of ADHD. But I started my medication. It's kind of been I've been able to sit down and explore some more hobbies that I might be interested in. So I've just been playing around, and then I got the new iPad, and I found like an app, and just it all went from there really with drawing.
For ADHD, hobbies are like this double-edged sword, right? Because we can be like so good at hobbies. We can be like the best at hobbies. And that's because we have like the hyper focus, right? But the other side to that sword is like we do not have the attention span to keep doing that same hobby for an extended period of time, right? Have you found that?
Exactly. I mean, sometimes I forget to even eat and drink when I'm so absorbed and like hyper focused on something. And then the next day I could be doing it for an hour and I'm like, nah, I can't do no more. And I just lose instantly. I'm like, I'm not doing that no more. And I'm like,
Yep.
because you just want to finish something. But then you kind of have a fight with your own mind, don't you? You're like, oh, I give up.
Yeah, and I don't know what that is with not being able to finish things because it is like true. So a little bit off topic, but I have just been I just finished a workout routine, right? It was like a 60 days thing called Insanity, and I did like the first month, and then I had the week off, then I did the second month, and I got to the last week of it, and I just can't bring myself to finish it. And I don't know why. It's like my brain just doesn't want me to finish it. Once like I've been like looking at other workouts, new workouts to start doing and all this kind of stuff, but I can't bring myself to finish this one thing. And that's not the first time it's happened with working out and stuff like that. Like this is like the fourth time I've done this and not fully finished it. And I don't get why my brain just like doesn't want to feel the accomplishment of finishing something, you know?
Oh, I know. I feel you. I know. I went to the gym last year, and I paid like a yearly subscription because it's cheaper to do that sometimes. So I did that.
Sure.
I went for like not even a month, and I was proper like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get a summer. Yeah, no, that lasted like a week and a half, and I was like, yeah,
Right.
no more.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Oh, it's so because I think we almost set ourselves up to fail. You know,
Right.
like we always feel like we're not good enough anyway. So by, not committing and doing it and going through it, and, we could achieve great things, but by not doing it, it's kind of like we feel like, I don't know, like if we don't do it and we don't, like no one's going to be disappointed because people just think you're going to fail anyway.
That's interesting.
That's how I always feel like, oh, well, like, people know I'm not going to do it anyway, so I may as well just give up. That's how my mindset works.
So do you think that you would find it easier to finish something like that if you had somebody to hold you accountable for it then?
Definitely. I have found though, since I've started YouTube, my mum's like she was really into it. She's like, yeah, you're great at it. And my mum's pushing me to do more videos. She's helping me like, edit them.
That's great.
She's almost like a mentor. She's like today, Molly, you can do this. I thought of a good subject you can speak about. She's really like pushing me. But when I started it before, I had no like interest. I'd done one video and it took me like 5 or 6 hours to edit it. And I just thought, yeah, that I can't be dealing with that anymore. But since my mum's been kind of nagging at me and like, Molly, do this, do that, it's almost like, oh, my mum's really proud of me. I want to do that. Do you know? I don't know if you get that.
Yeah.
I do get that, and that's great. It's a great thing to have because you're gonna see what you'll see with your YouTube is you'll see your subscriber count will slowly rise, right? As your mum is encouraging to put out these videos, right? And then once you get to like a larger amount, for me it was like a couple hundred or like to like 500 or something like that, then it's like, oh my gosh, I have like 500 subscribers and they are waiting for me to put out a video now. So then your accountability changes at that point because it's not just your mom anymore. It's like all these people who are waiting for you now. So that's why like YouTube is like such a great tool for ADHDers. And I think like a lot of people should have an ADHD channel because it holds you accountable for like making something and continuing to do it, and it's not something that has a foreseeable end to it, so you have a routine with it, and it's good to help build routines.
No, exactly. Yeah, definitely. I feel like, you know, when you put a video up, and well, for my channel it's just starting out, so I might get like 5 or 6 likes and I'm like, oh great, and then the next video you kind of feel like, oh, what did I not do in that video? I can do it now. So you try something else and it kind of makes you feel like, oh, actually, yeah, I know people like that, so I'm going to do that more. So yeah, I get what you mean, definitely.
Good. And a lot of the time, so like I was saying about YouTube being a like long-term project thing, that's good too, because there's this thing that I made a video about it on my channel that I call like when you're looking at like activities and hobbies and stuff, there's like something that I was calling short-lived obsessions. And basically that's like what we were talking about before, where if you, so like, let's say you pick up an instrument and you decide, like, just out of nowhere, you sporadically decide, I'm going to learn that. I'm going to know, like, I'm going to be great at it. And then you sit down for like a week or two, and it's like the only thing you can think about when you're away doing other things. All you can think about is doing that one thing. But when you get back to it, you eventually start to lose your obsession with it, and then it's just gone out of your life, and then you forget it ever existed.
Exactly. Oh, I've been there too many times, Chris. I know that feeling. Oh my God.
Right? It's so hard, right?
I mean, you kind of expect it all the time, don't you? Like, what did I done something a few weeks ago, and I was helping my sister. She's like doing law at college. And I wanted to help her, and I thought, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. And I started looking, and I was like, yeah, no, I can't do that. And I almost just, you know, gave up because I just thought I'm not good enough for that. And then it's just a vibe we get, isn't it? And you kind of just think, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. You just lose that willpower to do anything. I get that.
Right? So we have a shared hobby. Well, I mean, it's a hobby, and also it is my profession, but that is photography, right? So when did you like get into doing photography?
So when I was at school, I was excluded a lot, right? I was always in trouble. And I think that's quite a common thing, isn't it? It's quite stereotypical, but it's one of those things.
Right.
There was like, I wasn't allowed to do many options at school, and options is like lessons that are almost like a privilege. I was only allowed to pick from photography, art or drama, and I had no interest in any of them. Like, no, I don't like it. So I kind of had to narrow it down. I don't like being the centre of attention, so drama was like completely out of it. And then I kind of thought, well, art, I can't draw, so I'm not going to do that. So I was just left with photography. So I thought, oh, whatever, I'll give it a go. And honestly, I fell in love the first lesson. I was like, wow. Because like, I just love how you can take a photo and you see it as a perspective and somebody else sees it as a completely different photo. And like, there's no right or wrong about photography, and I really enjoy that.
That's good. I mean, so I taught photography too. In my last job, I did like educational levels of photography, and that's one of the things that I always instill into everybody is like, there's no wrong way to do photography, because how can somebody tell you that your artist's perspective is wrong on how a photo is supposed to be, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that that's a really great thing, and I think that that's really cool for ADHDers, because as we know, typically ADHDers are a lot more creative than neurotypical brains, just because of the way that our brain is wired. So I think that like photography is a great topic for somebody to go into, or hobby for somebody to go into. What kind of photography do you like to do?
See, I've done a wedding. I done like one wedding, and that I kind of gathered that wasn't my type of.
You did a wedding?
Yeah, so that was like at the very beginning of my kind of like journey with photography. It was like one of my auntie's friends, and she was like, I'll give you £50. And I was like, oh, all right then. So I was just snapping away. But at the end of it, I was like, I just don't like the pressure of having to say to people, can you stand in a line, or like, you know, calling out the orders for people to stand in. So I kind of you know, crossed that off my list. I wasn't like, nah. So I basically love like nature photography and like quite like rural photography. So like, you know, like the countryside, flowers, just like things like that, like quite natural.
I can't believe you shot a wedding on one of your first things. That's usually everybody's end game, is the weddings.
Yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't great. Like, I look back at some of the photos now and I think, oh my God, how embarrassing. Because like, it was not all of them are focused, but some of them came out like, you know, quite natural. Like they looked as if they were staged, but they weren't. So some of them are great, which I think people like, especially for like a photography, for a wedding. It's kind of like, people don't want to be staged, do they? They'd rather just capture the day.
Yes,
so yeah,
candid,
I feel like I went okay for being an amateur.
Good for you. Good for you. You have strengths in photography that I do not have. So like any kind of landscape work or anything like that, or still life stuff, anything like that, I am utterly useless at it. And that's because like I started out as like a event photographer, so I do like birthdays and portrait sessions, family portrait sessions, all that kind of stuff. And then I moved on to like weddings and stuff like that. And then I spent the last 5 years as a photojournalist, like going into countries and doing photos of, you know, poverty and all that kind of stuff like that, and documenting trips and stuff. And that was like fascinating to me because I have this, my personal thing with photography is I feel like without like a person in it, I don't have an interest in it. Like I think that's why I'm not good at landscapes, because I feel like the person adds life to the photo and like adds soul to the photo. So then I just kind of don't know what I'm doing when there's not a person in there. If that makes sense.
I definitely get that. I do understand actually, because some of the photos I like take of just one flower, right, I'll focus in, and it's kind of like, oh, that's just a flower, you know? And every photo that you take is just a flower. But I do get, when it's like loads of people, you kind of, you know, there's a story, isn't there, within that photo. So I definitely get what you mean when you say like.
And you know what's interesting about that is, in terms of an ADHD perspective, when you look at that, right, you have like these two conflicting styles of photography, okay? And the fact of the matter is, like, my ADHD allows me to find that niche because that's the only thing that I'm interested in, right? Like, this the only thing that gets dopamine running in my brain and gives me the passion to take those photos. Whereas you can look at the other stuff and that is what grasps your attention and allows you to focus on that. So like, and then like, as you said, the other stuff that you did, it wasn't like, you know, it didn't give you that hit of dopamine. It didn't pique your interest, right? ADHD almost pushes you into a niche of photography, right? Or a hobby.
Exactly. No, exactly. I feel like you're probably more sociable than I am. Like, I feel like you could be, like you say, you was like a teacher and you taught it. See, I couldn't stand in front of a class and kind of, you know, have to be strict and give out like instructions. See, I couldn't do that. So I feel like you're definitely probably more socially confident than what I am. So I feel like when I'm doing photography, you know, I'm on my own. I don't have to speak to no one. I can have my headphones in and kind of just, you know, a flower won't talk back to you, will it? It won't try and communicate with you. So, you know, I just feel like I'm in my own zone. Whereas with other people, I tend to like shy away, and that's just not for me. I'm not a people person.
All right.
Yeah.
How does your ADHD get in the way of photography as a hobby? Do you find it affects you at all?
Sometimes I can just be, I don't know, going for a walk around our local like countryside, and I'll be snapping away, and then 5-6 hours later, you know, I'm still at the same place. It's literally like I'm still walking up and down the same place, taking pictures and pictures, and I'm just like, what am I doing? I've done the same pictures loads of times, and then I'll come home, and again, like, I'll hyper focus on editing, and you know, that I could like lose a whole night of sleep. I can literally just be like on my iPad, like editing away, and then I'll not even wake up. I just look at the time. I'm like, bloody hell, like, Christ, You know, like,
Yeah.
what the hell? The time's gone flying by.
I get that, and especially with editing too. So I will find myself, I have this strange relationship with editing, okay, where like I will take the photos, I'll love them, I'll put them on my computer, and then I just cannot bring myself to like start the editing work, and I'm like, you know what I mean? And I'll know like a client, let's say a client will have like, oh, can I see them in like a week? And I'll be like, yeah, okay. I know for a fact that I am not going to start that editing until the day before. I just know it, like, and I'll go in and look at them, I'll start all that, but I just cannot bring myself to do it. But when I do it, it's like an obsession. It's like I as soon as I get into it, I'm like, oh, this is like, I need this to look like this, and I need this to be perfect, and I'll do it for such a long time because I do love doing it, but just the thought of like getting started on it is just too hard for me.
No, I definitely feel you. Like, again, for like my university work, it's like, I know it has to be done, and then it'll be like, oh, you've got a week to do it, and I'm like, oh, that's ages, you know, I'll do it tomorrow. Then tomorrow literally never comes, and then it's the night before, and I'm like, oh my god, I get a reminder on my iPad, and I'm like, oh Jesus, I haven't even done anything. Like, then I'm frantically doing it, and then I'm like, what about if it's not good enough? And then I'm just, you know, arguing because I'm thinking, Molly, you should have done it. You know, you knew you had to do it. Oh.
The fact of you not wanting to do it is not what the problem is, because I do want to do it. I literally am like, please, can I just focus on doing it? But there's something in my brain that doesn't allow me to start that thing. Like, it's almost like a barrier in front of me that like just stops me from doing it, you know?
Yeah, I definitely, and it almost like, it portrays you as being lazy, doesn't it? It makes you feel like
Yes.
you're lazy as well. And I've had people say to me like, you know, why don't you just do this? And I'm like, you know, if it was that easy, I would be doing it already. Like,
Right.
sometimes you just think like, don't pretend to understand because you don't understand. Like, come back to me when you actually understand. It can be really frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's like going up to a deaf person and being like, well, why don't you just listen, you know? Like,
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
someone said to me, on one of my blogs actually, someone said to me, it's invisible, so it doesn't matter. And I was thinking, hang on, you know, it doesn't matter whether you can physically see it, you know, or you can't. It doesn't matter. Like, if it affects me negatively, then it's a problem. It's important, you know, it should be taken seriously. And I do feel that with the stigma, I don't know if you've ever been like, you've had the problem, I suppose, with the stigma, but I've definitely been like, oh, it's for naughty kids, you know, it's an excuse. And you just think, but it's not, you know, and people get labelled as like bad parents. And you think, you know, if my mum could stop me, or my dad, like, could stop me having to go through what I've been through, they would have done that. You know, people just kind of demoralise the whole, you know, the whole diagnosis of ADHD. They just feel like, oh, you know, it's not a disability, it's not this, it's not that. But you're just like, you know what, once you understand, I'll totally listen to you, but for now, shh.
Yeah.
Agreed, you know, and I have the experience with that stigma, and yeah, it's unfortunate, and I do like, I've had more experience, I think, with the stigma of like taking medication with it, with people who are like, oh, well, you know, it's just practically meth, or you know, or it's just like saying stuff like, well, you know, it's giving you an advantage. Like, how can you like go to college and take that when everyone else has to not be able to take that? And I'm like sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, like, you have no idea, right? The reason why you have no idea is because I'm already at a disadvantage when I come into there. Without the medication, I'm set at a different disadvantage to you. All the medication does for me is brings me to your level. It just brings me up to the point of view where now I'm at a fighting chance. It's the same to come back to like a deaf person again. You can give somebody who has damaged hearing, you can give them a hearing aid, and they're going to be able to hear like we can hear. it's just going to bring them back to like where we're at, right? It's not going to give them supersonic hearing and turn them into a freaking superhero. All it's doing is bringing them to our level, right? And that's how I feel about the medication. It just gives me the level playing ground, as them.
Definitely. I mean, I heard something. Well, actually, I read something about when you have ADHD, you're almost like not your age. You're mentally, you're kind of like set back like 2 or 3 years, and I think that's really interesting because I don't know how the grades work in America. I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but I believe I should have probably been like the year below at school because my mental age was definitely not up to the standard of some of the children that I went to school with. I look at them now and I think, some of them have got kids and some of them are really, really like, well, I don't know, they're just really put together, like they've got their own career, and I think, why can't I do that? But then I always have to think to myself, like you say, we are at a disadvantage, and I do believe it's quite a major disadvantage actually, because even with having the label of ADHD, that puts you back anyway, because people expect you to be naughty and they almost put you on like a pedestal, don't they? They think, oh, right, I'm going to keep an eye on you, and they automatically assume that you're going to be a bad child. But realistically, you're not. Not everybody has that like behavioural different. Well, I know that a lot of girls don't anyway.
Right, it's true.
But sadly for me, unfortunately, my teachers had to put up with a hell of a lot of attitude and running around the school thinking I was the boss. But yeah, no, a lot of people don't realise the complexities that ADHD actually gives us.
Not so much I felt like I should have been the year below. I feel like my teachers should have noticed it better and should be more, and I think teachers should be more equipped to help with that. So like, acting out and all that kind of stuff, which is what I did, is like they should have noticed what that was, or at least had some kind of diagnosis to what that was, and then they should be more equipped to know how to deal with that in a classroom. Do I need a different environment? Do I need more one-on-one? Do I need, that kind of encouragement, and positivity would have helped a lot. So, because I think that, like, in a sense, I think that ADHDers are more equipped to be and more intelligent in some senses than neurotypical brains. Because if I hyperfocus on something, or if you hyperfocus on something, you can be better than anyone at it. It's just, you have to find a way to get that focus and to keep that focus, right? So I don't think that that's our fault. I think that is more failed system than it is a person failing.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I wasn't diagnosed until I was 21, and I had to go all through college, secondary school, like I don't know what the junior school, and all of that, rubbish. I had to go all through that, and every report card I look back at now, I've read some of them in my previous podcast, and it sticks out like a sore thumb, and I'm like, how did nobody ever like pick it up? I mean, right. I do know a couple of teachers did say to my parents, like, there's something wrong with Molly. You need to get something done. But the thing is, I was so good at masking some of the more like kind of stereotypical behaviours of ADHD. I kind of learnt to deal with that on my own, and I was like a chameleon. I kind of like hid them from people that I didn't want to be vulnerable like near.
Yeah. Anyway, we've totally segued from our topic. I wanted to ask you, so we were talking about the photography and ways it affects you. I wanted to kind of shoot some things that it affects me, right? So one of the biggest ways that it affects me is like my memory. So like I will constantly forget gear on a shoot. I'll always forget the lens that I wanted to bring with me. I'll forget it, or I'll forget my cards, or I'll forget, all that kind of stuff. Or maybe I'll forget to, another one is I'll have a project that, let's say I've done a photo project and I will not have wiped the card. And I'll take it out onto a shoot with me, and then I'll start shooting, and then I'll realize, when I've already started shooting that I haven't wiped the card. And it's not like I can just go in and click format now. I have to go in and individually delete all the other ones because I don't want to delete the new ones that I've just taken today. Because if I format it, I'll wipe all those. So like, it's such a pain for me to remember all that stuff, you know? So memory is like a huge issue for me with that.
Yeah, see, I get that with like organisation. That is...
Yeah.
Yeah, oh God, if you say, oh Molly, be here for 10 o'clock, you know, like you say 6 o'clock, I knew I had to be here, but I was like 5:30, I'll quickly run to the shop, I'll be totally okay. Then I had to come back, do the camera, then I was running around the house, like, where did I put that? And I was just like, oh God, I totally get you there.
It's called time blindness, right? And basically what that is it's like ADHDers don't have the same concept of time as a regular person, right? So like, whereas, you know, you have like this length of time to do something, you think in your brain, you think, yeah, I can do that. I could probably get to the shops in like 5 minutes and then get to buy what I want in like 5 and then be back in 5. That's like 15 minutes, right? You know, so then I could be right in and then I'll get ready and I'll start everything, right? It took me 30 minutes. So that's the way our brain works, right? Whereas here's the reality of it, right? You have to leave the house, so you have to put your shoes on, you have to get ready, you have to go out, that's 10 minutes. You have to walk to the store, it actually takes about 10 minutes to walk to the store. Then you've got to get into the store and look around the store. There's people at the counter already being served, so you have to wait till they're finished before you go and get served. The whole thing takes like half an hour on its own. Then when you get back, you have to set everything up, like you said. And it's so strange because it's like ADHD is like just can't see that in a sense. They just, because they look at the time frame that they know it takes to do something, and it's totally wrong to what it actually does take.
Oh, I totally get that. I mean, my sister is like, do you know what I'd say? I'd like quite honestly say she's quite OCD, right? She's everything has to be done in pristine time. Nothing can be done. So for me, if you say be here for 10, see, I would leave at 5 to 10 and think, oh, I'm going to be there in plenty of time. My sister will leave at like probably 20 past 9 and give herself, you know, time for things to go wrong. But me, no, that doesn't happen, and I'm always late to things, always. I'm never on time, honestly.
That's it. It's an ADHD trait.
Oh, it'd be so wrong with me if I was actually on time.
Yeah, right? I get that too. You know, another thing that I find with hobbies like photography and stuff like that, and I guess it kind of pertains to you as a whole, because I feel like I would be the same with artwork, with drawing, with anything that is like vulnerable, right? Because to me, photography makes me feel vulnerable, because what I'm doing is I'm taking something. Like, I'm taking a photo of something that I've taken that photo. It's purely from me, and it's my perception of what something should be. And that is like really like makes me feel vulnerable when other people see that, because I'm like, they're not going to like it. They're going to judge it. It's not going to be good enough. It's not going to this. And we have, as ADHDers, we have this thing like, it's very common to have like what's called RSD, which is like rejection sensitive dysphoria. And that's like, right? And that's like the fear of rejection is so overwhelming that it makes you like recede into yourself, and it really causes like anxiety and a whole host of other things. And that is a big problem for me with photography, especially when it's my profession, because I can never, ever, ever be happy with the work I do. Every time I do it and I take it and I edit it and I send it and I'm like, oh, this is great. And then I'll like export it and then I'll send it to them. And then the next time I look at it, I'm like, I hate it. Why did I send them that? And then like,
it's totally me.
You know
oh yeah. It's so nice to like talk to someone that actually has it, because I don't really have many friends that have ADHD. I don't really have many friends, actually. I'm going to be honest. That's a huge thing for me.
Me neither.
But like, oh, it's so nice to hear you say it, because it's just like, even with like the simplest of things, like when you asked me to do this, I was like, oh my god, should I do it? Should I not? And I was going back and forth. And then today I was like, oh god, what about if I don't like perform well? And my mum was like, Molly, all you gotta do is speak. And I was like, yeah, but I might not be good enough. So I totally get what you mean with like rejection. It's such a vibe in my head.
Yeah, it's tough. It's hard to deal with, and it can affect like. it can affect hobbies that are like that. Hobbies where you have to like show other people, or like it's like an expression of yourself. They're the toughest ones, I think, out of all the hobbies.
Definitely, and especially like when you're being paid to do something. You know, people have asked for me to do some drawings and portraits, and I'm like, no. I mean, it'd be great money and it'd be a great opportunity, but I'm like, no, I can't be dealing with someone saying to me, oh, I don't like that, because I feel like a disappointment. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I shy away from like opportunities that could potentially like lead to great things. No, I'll leave that one.
Right. Now, there is one thing that I normally ask most of my ADHD podcast people, and that is, well, you've already spoken a little bit into it, is, you know, how your medication is doing for you. How has your journey been with the medication?
Mine's been quite smooth. I mean, it's been quite like a dream, actually. I mean, I've lost 5.5 stone from my medication. Like, it came off within like 6 weeks, and the doctors were pretty like, oh gosh, like we're gonna have to keep an eye on that. But it's been really great. I haven't had to change like medication. I've had to up them a little bit. Like they start you off on a real small like dose, which was like 30, and then I went up to 40, then it was 45. Now I'm on 50 now. The limit is 70, so I was able to go up to 70, but I was like, do you know what? I kind of still I don't want to feel like a zombie. I want to be able to, you know, live life and actually feel stuff and experience it. I don't want to be zoned out all the time. So, yeah, it's been quite smooth, actually.
You know, I'm glad that your medication's working, and I'm glad that you're doing your channel and that you're being a mental health advocate and all that good stuff. And I'm excited to see what your business turns out to be. I know you're keeping a lot of it tight-lipped right now, and that's a good thing because... You know, I think it's a good thing because I want you to be able to just unleash it on the world and it to be this amazing thing, which I know it's going to be. So, you know, I'm excited.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. So,
we'll definitely have to do some more of these. I've got some ideas for me and you to definitely like combine together.
Perfect. Let me know them all because I'm always collabing with people, and I'm working on a podcast right now where I'm trying to get a few ADHDers in on one call. I don't know how much mayhem that's going to be because of the fact that we all zone out and we all talk over each other and we all do that. You know, it's going to be pretty mental, but I'm excited to do it. And yeah, so thank you for coming on today and talking with us, and you know, we'll see you in the next one, hopefully.
Perfect. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Of course. And for everybody else, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.